this is Joe Big House Kenn, and you are inside the house, powered by Dynamic Fitness and Strength, building the better athlete. Today, we have a very special guest to talk about one of the most controversial topics on social media today, youth and lifting weights. Who better than International Coach Travis Mash, former world champion powerlifter. Travis has 26 Team USA international athletes from the youth and junior level. So we're talking to a guy who understands an age bracket of when introductory weightlifting, in particular sport of weightlifting, but also in athletics, the positives and negatives of starting an athlete at a certain age. So without further ado, Travis, thanks for being here.
Hey man, I'm excited.
Yeah, man, me and Travis, man, known each other forever, and he is a go-to guy for me, especially now with the amount of research that he puts in. When Travis talks about developing youth athletes, not only does he practice what he preaches on the floor, he is doing things behind the scenes, reading and evaluating what is out there so that when he is teaching these kids the correct applications to do Olympic-style weightlifting at a young age, this is the guy that we need to listen to. So Travis, right off the bat, we talk about it all the time. We're hearing it all the time on the internet. What is age-appropriate weightlifting? Talk to me first about your general beliefs, and then we'll talk a little bit specifically because of your son.
Right. Well, my general beliefs is that GPP comes first. I would like to believe that all good coaches would agree with that. So by GPP, I mean let's do body weight stuff. My sons if it wasn't for COVID, my daughter would already be in gymnastics. Both my boys started at 1 year old in gymnastics, and so that was pretty much the base of what's going to be the rest of their athletic career. We let them play a lot, so I would say 1, get them in gymnastics. 2, we let them play. We let them take risks. If you watch my videos, you'll see them climbing the door frames. We have a big family farm that they run around on, they jump, they ride their bikes, they climb the fences, they jump. So that would be the second key. And then third, when they want to, we start to teach them the movements. But Rock is 5, but like I said, he's been training for 4 years. And then when he finally came up to me and said, "Dad, can you teach me this?" And that's the first time we taught him. And like with Bear, I don't even say anything to him about lifting. When he comes to me, he's about to turn 4, but when he comes to me, maybe it's 10, I don't know, but I will not force him into doing it. It will be something they come to me, and I'm still to date, I only train Rock when Rock says, "Dad, can we work out?" Because for heaven's sakes, he's 5.
Right.
And just because he's advanced right now, it doesn't mean, I'm not saying because he's way advanced now that when he's 14 that he's going to be the best 14-year-old. I'm just saying he has a head start of the movement. And I don't want to burn him out at 5, because nothing at 5 is going to matter. It's just movement.
And that brings up the point that I've always said too, with adolescents, and I've always said that no evidence behind it, but nothing really matters till an athlete reaches puberty.
Agreed.
Because we've seen the body transformations of, again, the kid who may be considered slightly overweight in youth football, and then he blossoms into this 5-star athlete, and then the guy who was dominating the youth football peaked out and he's done. So again, this is very unique. Travis's son, like he said, I remember when Travis started him in gymnastics at an early age, and that he was already being taught fundamental skills of tumbling, handstand, body weight stuff. So when I saw Travis's first post of Rock in the weight room, although my first thing is Travis is crazy, but again, from a learning and from the block zero type of mentality, he just was involved with something at a very early age. And we all know how we feel about body weight movements in block zero and how much of gymnastics, and in this case, organized gymnastics training can benefit any athlete. With that being said though, Travis, now let's take it back throughout the personal. When if an athlete walks in, and I've seen you training, I think, a couple of 9-year-old women.
Right.
So they come in, obviously they have to have had some sense of awareness of the sport of weightlifting,
Right.
or they don't they don't walk into your gym to speak with you.
Right.
When they come in with their parents, how does that conversation even start? Like my daughter wants to be an Olympic weightlifter.
Normally it's CrossFit. You know, they've either the parents normally are involved in CrossFit, so they understand the sport, and the kids were somewhat involved, probably CrossFit Kids, or they call it something else nowadays. But so they've been involved with that. They know snatch and clean jerk. So they come to me and they're like, "Hey, can you teach us to get better at this?" And all we do at first is it's just movement. Like, and remember, a movement is movement. Like, you know, you could really say that throwing a softball or a baseball is a load, and it's like, and it's a movement. And so it's really just relative, because like some of the bars you see me using, one is 2.5 kilograms, so it's 5 pounds. It's not heavy. It's no more than if Rock goes in the yard and picks up a stick. You know, it's the same thing. Another one is 5 kilograms, so it's 11 pounds. So all we care about until they're, you know, post puberty is movement. Is like making sure they're doing the movements properly. Make sure there's 2 big ones I would recommend. Try to avoid any kind of spinal flexion, because you want to catch it with you'll hear me in the videos coaching it, because now, because the weights are light, when he does go into flexion, it's not a strength thing, because you'll hear me correct him and you'll see him correct it on the next rep. So it's not a strength thing, it's just it's a neural adaptation that he's missing. And so he's getting it, now he's catching, you know, bigger weights with a neutral spine. And the other one would be any kind of like knee valgus. We try to avoid any of that. And a lot of times it's just a verbal cue of saying, don't let your knees go in. He just doesn't know, he's just moving. You're telling him to do an activity and he's doing it, and his body's doing whatever it wants to do. So you just teach him a little over time. Those 2 things will keep him safe. Spinal and neutral spine, and keeping the knees neutral in alignment with the first 2 toes is what I always say.
So we walk into your gym, we find out that the athletes would have possibly a CrossFit for Kids type of background. I'm going to guess, based on what you said, regardless of what they're telling you, you're going to determine where they are as far as technique. And we talked about this before, like block 0 for someone like myself who's developing a sporting athlete versus block 0 for someone who is going to use these actual lifts in competition. How fast, like for me at that age, I'm not even contemplating, like a 9 or 10-year-old, putting a barbell in their hand anytime soon. It seems though there's a lot of similarities in the movement preps and the body weight exercises, but are you getting that barbell in their hand? I know faster than I would, but so what does that look like? If this 9-year-old comes in, are you having them do an overhead squat with that 2.5 kilogram day one?
Exactly. I want to see where they're at. So the 9-year-old comes to me and I want them to do a close grip overhead squat.
Gotcha.
If they can do that, then they have the movement. Can they do that without their arms bending, without any kind of knee valgus, without any kind of flexion? If they can, they're stable. So now they have the ability to move through those ranges of motion. So now you put a 2.5 kilogram bar in their hand. Is it any different than them doing it without anything in their hands? Not a whole lot. So you get them, and the key is this. Here's what I know based on the last 8 years in weightlifting is the people that are in the Olympics right now, well, if COVID wasn't here, the people who would be, all started very young. Harrison Morris, CJ Cummings, they're both starting around that 9-year mark, maybe sooner with CJ and Harrison. Those 2, let's see, Matty Rogers stayed a little bit older, Wes Kitts was a little bit older, and then the girl, Jordan Del Cruz, she started super young. So the majority of the athletes, especially the ones who are killing it, CJ and Harrison, started very young. And here's what I mean by that. They learn the movements. And so if I put a 2.5 kilo bar in Rock's hands or Bear's hands, and they get that patterning down, those neural adaptations, when it's time to go at 14, I don't have to spend 2 or 3 years teaching that. It's time to go. We can start loading them a little at a time. So by the time they're 18 years old, they can be ready for their first senior world championships, which is always a goal around the 18, 19, like, with Ryan Grimslin. We're looking for him to make his first senior team next year, which he'll be that 18, 19 years old. And I think we're right on pace for that. like right now he's, you know, if he were doing the numbers he's doing right now, a couple years ago, Ryan would be like, you know, going for Olympics right now. Yeah.
So I was going to bring up Ryan and your other teenage protege, Morgan McCullough, but before that, let's talk a little bit about some of the science stuff.
All right.
So now, during this progression, we've continued to hear issues with growth plates, bone density, too young,
Right.
catching and absorbing force. I mean, we can go on all this ticky-tack stuff. You've always had quality backing from
Right.
what your studies. We've actually just talked about earlier today where Squat University, he brought up the same principles that, hey, there's some fallacies going on.
Totally.
Let's talk about, for parents out there, or even to educate coaches who still, in my mindset, is like, wow, still 5 to 9, do I really want my granddaughter or grandson to have a barbell in their hand? And again, like you said, rock came to you, it's a little different. Parents bringing in 9-year-old athletes that want to lift, slightly different. There's a little bit different maturity. But tell us about some of the research you've done and why you feel very confident to have your own son at 5 and to coach 9, 10, 11-year-old kids that are coming into your gym.
Sure. Like, if you go into PubMed and you look at all the research when it comes to resistance training for youth, and you know, when people say growth plates, they're talking about the epiphyseal line, which is this little bit of line at the tops of your bones, you know, the long bones that are soft up until a certain point in your life. They're soft so they can grow. They can get, you know, the bones can continue to lengthen. And then they get hard and then they're solid and they stop and you get a solid base underneath you. But the thing is about the epiphyseal line, growth plates, is that they're really good for vertical forces. So when you're doing a clean, a squat, they're awesome for that. And the research would tell you that not only will you not get hurt, that it'll actually help that process, and it will strengthen bones. It will make that process of that line closing stronger. The cartilage will be better if it's done. Here's the key: under proper loads, meaning I'm not trying to max out yet. To the movement, that's the key. So if I have Rock in there doing terrible movement patterns, you see him in his backgrounding, and he does that over and over. Could I cause issues? I could then. So the key is having a good coach who will watch those lines and watch the movement done perfectly. And every bit of research, there's only one research article out there. It's from like 1970, and it wasn't even research. It was like some kind of observation people made that said maybe that's bad for growth plates. Later research, 80s, 90s, and 2000s have totally done away with that and said no, it all goes to the movement. Then, so that's the research. Then let's look at the common sense. Like if you go any Saturday in the fall, you'll go out and watch Pee Wee football. And you'll see 2 7-year-olds running each other, banging their heads together. Then do you really think there's more force with a 2.5 kilogram barbell or from 2 kids running as fast as they can and banging each other? You know, there's way more force there. Or if a kid's playing basketball and he jumps up and lands, way more force being absorbed from the jumping and landing than a 2.5 kilogram barbell, I promise. And so it's just, you know, looking at the research says safe, and if you slow down and think about it with common sense, you're like, it's just a movement. What's the difference in swinging a baseball bat? That's a load. So, you know, what is too heavy? Like,
Right,
you
I
know?
got you.
Yeah.
Well, and that's again, these are the things that are important to know when you're second guessing, when you're seeing kids at an age that you may seem as age inappropriate to strength train, that people have quality background and quality research and are introducing these athletes at a safe and progressive format, which brings me to loading. Another controversy is the amount of load. Now you've kind of explained this, but my question would be, we're seeing younger and younger athletes show up to competition. When you're planning that competition, me personally, if it was me, I would look at it as, I'm not going to max them. We're just getting them in front of competition judges.
Agreed.
So when you're planning that, how are you determining their load, and what determines when, oh, that's too close to what I think that is appropriate? I'm trying to think about the best way to say it, of what is the level of load or maximal attempt you would do with the youth, knowing that you don't want to expose them to a miss, not based off technique,
Right.
because we know Olympic weightlifting, you can see a person miss the load twice and come back and make it look like it was butter
Right.
on attempt 3. But what are you thinking about when you bring these athletes at that age to a meet, as far as what is appropriate for me to make sure they have success without going over the top or being overzealous as a coach?
I would say from 11 down, you're talking about, I would do something to do for 5 would be an opener. And I would never go heavier than something they could do for 3. But really, it's funny, just this morning I read an article about doing 10s at that age is probably your better bet, because, and a 10 RM is going to be, for young kids, is just as good as like a 5 RM for predicting, singles. And so for those kids, you can see progress and do 10s. Even is 10s a lot for cleans? Maybe I might stick to 5 just because it's such a technique-driven thing. But for kids that would rock, we started doing 5s, and I tell you what, he's getting to where he can do 5s with the same amount he could do for singles, because he's getting so much better at it. Because, man, they're not getting hypertrophy. Their muscles are not growing right. It is neural adaptation only. And so I would recommend 5s, and then if you're going to do anything, we don't do squats or anything yet. We did do some deadlifts yesterday for the first time, but it was mainly because I'm wanting him to work on, keeping a neutral spine. But we're doing 5s or above. I would do 5s and 10s for strength work, probably all 10s now that I read what I read, and 5s for the Olympic lift. I don't know that we'll do any more singles until we compete, and then it won't be a single. It'll be something he can do for 5 that he'll go out and compete. And like you just said, so he can do it in front of a judge and get used to it. So by the time he's 14, 15, 16, he'll be confident. So.
Okay, so from there, I would say for me personally, because I know even at the professional, 10 reps with a decent load, technical failure is going to occur.
Totally.
So I'm not a big fan of the
I wouldn't say
10
true
reps.
10 RM. I would say a 10
Training load.
Yeah, you're doing 10s. I mean, you could even do it 10 times, but it's not a true 10 RM.
Yeah.
It's like 80% of your 10 RM for 10.
Do you think though at that age, from a work capacity and conditioning standpoint, can they maintain enough mental focus at that age? Because again, it's a totally different demand than doing something one time and saying, "Hey, Daddy, how'd that go?"
Yeah, I think for squats and deadlifts, yes, but not for cleans. At least I haven't tried it. All I did yesterday, we did 5s on cleans, and it went really well, and it got better and better. And the more he did it, the better he got. Squatting, let me do it for a month, because I just read this article this morning before, so I would literally be telling you just what this article said. So I need to do it before I can say it in front of people.
Right.
But it appeared, based on what this article said, for youth, as long as you keep the weight well below something they're going to max at. So you're not doing something that at 10 they're almost done. You're keeping it at an 8 or a 7 RPE. And all you're doing is getting in, what Louis Simmons would have said is the repetition method, is getting in so much volume. And could you do, instead of doing 3 by 10, could you flip that around and do 10 by 3? You could, but it seemed like this article was pretty set on, it seemed to work better for youth to do more reps.
Okay, so now we move out of that really early adolescence age. Now let's talk about some of the guys you've had at 13, 14, 15 who are now coming into their 16, 17, 18. Right. So now you've had these athletes, they've had that background. Both your two prodigies had CrossFit for kids or CrossFit type backgrounds when they came to you. When you see that excellence at an early age in weightlifting, do you worry about the same things we talked about as far as when they go to competition, or is it now full, we're going to set records and we're going for pure legitimate 1 rep maxes? When does that age convergence in weightlifting happen? Is it very still individualistic, or is there, as you've learned enough with enough athletes trained, there's a certain bell curve where this is the range of age bracket, or this is about the types of training age an athlete has when we can start going over the top?
I would say with Morgan, he was 14 when we first started pushing a little bit. He had gone 6 for 6, which is there's 3 snatches, 3 clean jerks, man, he was like almost perfect for like the first 3 or 4 years. Like we barely, if he missed, it was like that random, he just made a mistake. He dropped it too soon before they sat down.
Right.
And then, but then at 14, I remember specifically, it was the first time he had potential to make a Team USA. And we went for it. And all that time of him making all those lifts, when it finally come time, because I'll tell you, it was a great story. He opened up 130 kilos on clean and jerk, got it, 286. Then he went to 135, 297, got it, which was a PR at the time. And then he come off the stage, he said, 137, that's all I got, which was 301. And I looked at him and said, no, today we're going to do 140, because if you get 140, you can make a Pan Am team. And if you just do 137, you don't get anything. He'd already won the meet.
Right.
So this was the only thing left to do.
Go time.
Yeah, so I wanted to see, I gotta see, like, what's this kid made out of? So we put a 140 on, he goes out there and smashes it.
I remember that day.
Yeah, I ripped the stairs loose from the stairs. And so, but that's Morgan. And so he started way younger. So if you started younger, I'm saying 14, 15, but then people mature differently. It's when they have that confidence. When you can look them in the eyes and ask them to do something and you see them respond with confidence. And if they don't, then don't. Like, don't make them be in those situations until they're ready. Because that's a good way to get a kid to, like, if Morgan had not been ready, it's a good way to make him quit. Because, I put a lot of pressure on a 14-year-old kid. And he responded. But I knew him. That's where the art of coaching comes in. I knew that he was ready. So.
Okay, that's a couple of things before we wrap it up. One of the things is, because of Travis's success, we were going to have an international meet here in the Winston-Salem area this June.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, how that came to play, and will we be able to bring that back to this area next year, or does it go out to bid?
It because it was in the Benton Convention Center, I think. But anyway, it can't come back next year because that same convention center is now booked out for that time. So like, yeah, it was going to be the best. It was going to be an AO series, which is like a regional meet for seniors. And then it was going to be the youth nationals, which would really put my guys on display,
Right.
Because they were going to run the show. And it was going to be youth Pan Ams, which once again my guys would have run the show, because we should have had, Hannah would have probably won the 55 kilo Pan Am championships, and Morgan would have for sure won the 96 youth Pan Am championships. But COVID, man, 2020 will be a year none of us forget anytime soon. But I sure would like to forget it, because it's caused a lot of issues.
Yeah.
I know that was going to be so big here in Winston-Salem to say, look, Winston, you have all these awesome athletes in your backyard. And, yeah.
We're going to wrap it up by telling you, Travis will be the weightlifting coach at Lenoir Rhyne. He's starting it from scratch. So on our next episode with Coach Mash, we'll talk about how he built a weightlifting program at Lenoir Rhyne in Hickory, North Carolina, which is about an hour from our world headquarters. So this is Joe Big House Kenn for Inside the House and Travis Mash, powered by Dynamic Fitness and Strength, building the better athlete. Till next episode, words win.